understand that righteousness exalteth a nation, that the throne is established by righteousness and upholden by mercy, to recognize the outworking of these principles in the manifestation of his power, who removeth kings and setteth up kings. This is to understand the philosophy of history. And most of us here, I'm sure, grew up knowing the story of the Great Controversy. I'm pretty sure most of us have read it. And the play-out of history shows us actions, consequences, lessons. We know that Earth is the scene of the Great Controversy, and it has played out through history. We've all heard the quote that we have nothing to fear for the future except we forget how God has led us in the past, which is really showing us how history works there. So that's on the spiritual level, but on the practical spiritual level, history also plays a very important part. If you think back in your life, I'm sure at one time or the other, one of you've met a person who you didn't really understand. They kind of seem to, react in a certain way. That, okay, that's strange. Maybe they don't like me. Maybe, I don't really get it. And so you don't understand the person. But then you're talking with somebody else, and you hear their story. And you're just, oh, okay, that's why they did that. Oh, that's why they responded that way. Why? Okay, so it wasn't my fault. And you begin to understand, and you can better understand that person. You know how to explain something now. You know how to present it in a way that that person will be able to receive, because you know their past, you know their history, you know their story, their experience. So the same thing really happens with a society. And as most of us here are preparing for mission service, you need to understand the history of the people that you want to serve. Last winter pack, not this past one, but one before that, I went to La Vida Mission in New Mexico. And it's a Navajo reservation, and they have a small mission with an elementary school and also a clinic, some community service. And I was watching the way they would offer services to the community, which is the Navajo people, and how the people would seem to react to that, and kind of just listening to the stories that the staff there were telling me. And the usual approach of giving away, free lectures or a free meal didn't seem to be working as well there. Because the people would come, they'd enjoy the free food, they'd enjoy the gifts, but then they would just leave and never come back until the next free event. It wasn't really working as an entering wedge the way it kind of does in the Anglo community. And so I was thinking about that, and then thinking back through the history of the Indian nations. How, of course, in the history of the United States, they have been treated quite horribly. And then in an attempt to make up for those actions, our society really has tried to make it up to them. So, they have a lot of scholarships, free health services in their reservations, free education, a lot of free stuff. And because of their history, the mentality that they have now is, it's free. It's no big deal. Why is it different now? And so understanding their history, understanding how that has affected their mentality, really makes a difference on how you are deciding to witness to them, how you decide to give them service, how you decide to present Christianity, because to them it's nothing more than a free handout. So understanding the history of a people really affects how we serve them. The final reason that I am going to present on why we need to study history is based on laws of humanity. I'm sure you all know about the law of gravity. You're sitting here because there's a law of gravity. You're all sitting because there's Newton's second law. Every action must have an equal and opposite reaction. I think it's the second one. And they just are. They're laws. There's no, it's okay, you don't have to follow gravity this time. I'll make an excuse for you. It just is. It always is. It always has a consequence. And so, but what does that have to do with history? Just as there are laws in science, such as the one on gravity, there are laws in humanity. What you observe is what you will do. The seeds and choices you plant will grow a consequence. There is a ripple effect. Without the truth of God, there is death. Without the compassion that only comes from Him, there is a cheapening of human life. They are not, you chose not to do this, so this might happen. they are laws that have to have an effect. These are laws which must have a result. Nothing except history, whether it's centuries or hours old, can teach us this in a better way. The choices that are written down in our history books, the choices that are recorded in the Bible, are perfect examples of the inevitable result and consequence of choices, showing better than anything the laws that we live by. And I'm sure you all heard at least part of what I've said, and I'm pretty sure we all agree. But if we really deemed it important that we understand our mission field, important that we learn what has influenced us so that we may influence better, understand better, make better choices, important that we see how God works, yesterday and today, because He is unchangeable. Important that we appreciate the efforts and dreams of the people who lived before us in their present. If we really believe these to be important, we would study history. Not just, oh, I have to take a history class for my degree. Not just as, yeah, sure, I agree history is important, but really study it and learn for ourselves. If we truly believe it is important, then in a way we have a duty to study the history, to learn for ourselves, we will, to better understand ourselves, our world, which is our mission field, and our God. As Solomon said in Ecclesiastes, there is nothing new under the sun, and we can learn from history and apply it to our today.